Is it important to read? After all, we're often told that we should revel in the moment, we should enjoy the moment rather than revel in the past. So is there any reason why we should read, and what purpose would that have? This afternoon, I hope to convince you that reading is an essential part of our lives, and we should incorporate that as often as possible throughout the day. The average Americans aren't reading enough, and I believe that it's wrong. Reading stimulates your brain, and it educates you in ways that are superior to any other form of learning. First, I would like to define what I mean when I use the word read. Every day, all of us read. We read stop signs, and newspapers, and advertisements, and text messages, and emails, but it really kind of just the way that we communicate with each other. But when I use the word read, I mean it in a much deeper sense than that. It's not like a passive convenience like reading a magazine, but it's an intentionally intellectual experience. Today, very few Americans do that type of reading. The Bureau of Labor Statistics did a study looking into the way that Americans spend their leisure time. And Vox.com dissects their works, and they note that Americans spend approximately 19 minutes per day reading. But they spend 26 minutes playing games on the computer, 43 minutes socializing and communicating, and approximately 166 minutes watching the television. As I said, though, only 19 minutes of that time is spent on reading. So it's very clear that we're not spending very much time reading, but is that really a problem? Well, some of you actually here might be avid readers. That's not really the main drive of our culture. And I do believe from several different areas that that is a problem. First, from a mental approach. Imagine with me if you're looking at a TV screen or a movie. We're constantly being presented with images that are so much more entertaining than a book. A book is a single, uninviting page view. But if you watch something on TV or on a movie, you're getting rapid bursts of image before your eyes. And so what's happening, in essence, is that your brain, you are accepting all of those sensory images rather than creating them yourself. So the difference between reading and watching something is that you are in control of creating all of those moments within your own brain, and you're entertaining yourself actively using your brain. So it's an active rather than a passive role. I think that's really important. You know, even if you look at a news report, sometimes you watch the news report, and the angle of the screen will be moved multiple times to increase drama. But a book is just a single view. And so often people think that it's boring, but I think there's that key difference is that active versus a passive role. And it exercises your brain in an entirely different way. Secondly, I feel from an intellectual standpoint, nothing can compare to reading. When you're reading, you gain knowledge, and that knowledge can be used to shape the world. You're uniquely intellectually stimulating your brain if you observe logic through a book, or you can look at historical fiction. You can be entertained, or you can be encouraged by a truth from Scripture. Reading truly is a wonderful pastime, and it gives you the ability to draw together various threads of truth from a cornucopia of different information. When we refrain from reading, three things happen. First, we deny our history, and our values are neutralized, and then our culture is in essence lost. Ray Bradbury is an American novelist, and he explains the phenomenon that happens when you refrain from reading. He's known most famously for his book Fahrenheit 451, and he said this, he said, you don't have to burn books to destroy a culture. You just have to get people to stop reading them. And I think that's really a loaded statement. If you're a reader, you'll notice that that phrase coincides with his book in Fahrenheit 451, where books are burned. They're illegal to possess. But he's pointing out that you don't have to burn them. You just have to get people to stop reading them. You don't have to make them illegal. And it also coincides with another book, another famous book, written about that time by Aldous Huxley called A Brave New World. And the people in that book, it's slightly a futuristic type of a novel. And the people live with amazing technology. They have just amazing technology. It's just totally everything is provided for, and yet they live in the horror of a controlled, intensely superficial lifestyle. And in that book, one of the main characters asks and says, "Where are all the books? Why aren't we reading them? Where are they?" And he's answered by the statement that books are old and they're not exciting anymore. And there's a great fundamental difference between happiness and the great arts and literature and classical thinking, and that there's no way that there's a big difference between the two. That was something that was a main point within that. And I believe that Americans have fallen victim to that same thought. They view that happiness and the great arts are somehow separated. I don't think it's really a coincidence that the average American watches 166 minutes of TV. They view that happiness and the great arts are no longer meshed together. And I really believe that's false, and from a really fundamental view. First, you have to kind of look, what is true happiness? Well, I think true happiness lies in the understanding of truth. And to properly understand truth, conversely, you must understand knowledge, and to understand knowledge, you must gain that through reading. And I'll repeat that. So, what is true happiness? True happiness lies in an accurate understanding of truth. And to properly understand truth, you must have knowledge, and to have knowledge, you must gain that from somewhere. And I think the primary way to do that is through reading. So hopefully by now you can see the importance of reading and incorporate reading into your lifestyle. And you may be thinking, how can I read? What books should I read, and where do I start? Well, Albert Mohler, the president of Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, gave an excellent explanation on how he reads. In a recent blog post, he said that he categorizes his reading into 6 main points: theology, biblical studies, church life, history, cultural studies, and literature. And he says, I have each of these categories going on at all times, and I collect and gather books for each project and read them over a determined period of time. He points out that helps him, by doing it in a determined period of time, helps him draw together all those threads and gives him accountability to continue to do that. So you can see a key aspect of reading is to be intentional about what you're doing. Try to set goals. Try to maybe finish 1 book a week, or if you're an avid reader, maybe 5 books a week or 5 books a month. Whatever your level is, seek to set goals, because in setting the goal, you can find that you will be able to accomplish it. I also recommend that if you do read, and when you do read, to diversify reading. Don't just read a fiction, or don't just read history, but read both of them, and read literature, and read the classics as well, because in doing so, you've kind of diversified your portfolio. And when you diversify that, you're able to get a well-balanced approach, and you have less risk of believing something that's not true. I actually brought several books along that I really enjoy, and I can't go into depth to describe each of them, but this book is called Invitation to Classics. I wanted to recommend this one because it's really great just to delve into some of the different topics of the great books that have been written by excellent men. So it addresses just hundreds of books within here, and it kind of gives a short overview of them. And I really encourage you to read it, pick it up, and it kind of gives you a way to begin, a good starting point. Then I brought up 2 of my personal favorites. This book is by R.C. Sproul. It's called Chosen by God. It's a very deep theological book, and I believe it's really, really applicable. It kind of delves into seeking truth and how it aligns with Scripture. Highly recommend this. And then I also have another book, which I've actually read a couple times. It's one of my favorites. It's called The Four Feathers by A.E.W. Mason. And it's a really great tale about this man who tries to prove that he's not a coward. And earlier in the novel, he fails, and so he goes back throughout the rest of the book to prove that he's not. And it's really a wonderful book in a very intellectual sense. I really enjoy it. So in conclusion, we've learned several things, and I like to kind of reiterate them. First, we've learned that true reading is not at all a passive convenience, but it's an intentionally intellectual experience. Today, our culture hasn't promoted reading, but we must read. True happiness lies in an accurate understanding of truth. And to properly understand truth, you must understand knowledge. And to understand knowledge, you must read, because that's the way you gain knowledge. Readers are leaders. And as Reading Rainbow suggests, you can go anywhere, but don't take my word for it. Take a look. It's in a book. Thank you.